You've died. This is God speaking. Yes, child, your time on earth has come to an end, and now it's time for you to understand the lessons that were before you all along, but you never fully grasped. As you look back on your life, there were so many things you could have done differently, choices that could have brought you closer to me, to your purpose, to the peace and love you always sought. I'm going to walk you through those lessons now, and I want you to listen carefully, because these lessons could have changed everything. If only you had known then what I will reveal to you now. Before we continue, take this moment to reflect. If you want more of my guidance in your life, hit the subscribe button now. This message is not just for you, it's for the world. Together we can spread these life-changing truths far and wide. One of the biggest struggles you faced while you were alive was fear. Fear of failure, fear of what others thought of you, fear of not being enough. Do you remember how many times you worried about things that never came to pass? You held back on taking that step of faith, and in doing so, you limited the blessings I had prepared for you. Fear ruled your decisions when faith should have been your guide. I whispered to you so many times, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you." Isaiah 41:10. Yet you didn't trust me fully. You doubted my plans for your life. But if you had stepped forward in faith, if you had believed in the promises I gave you, you would have seen miracles unfold before your eyes. Type, "I choose faith" in the comments if you're ready to let go of fear and trust in me completely. Do you remember Peter? When I called him to walk on water, his faith allowed him to step out of the boat. But the moment he let fear creep in, he began to sink. You too allowed the storms of life to distract you from my voice. But child, if you had kept your eyes on me, the wind and waves would have never pulled you under. Fear is the enemy's tool to keep you from living out the purpose I have designed for you. Every moment you lived in fear, you were paralyzed. But here's the truth. You were never alone. Another important lesson that you missed while alive was gratitude. You focused on what you didn't have, always chasing the next thing, the next achievement, the next possession, the next validation. But child, I gave you so many blessings along the way, and too often you overlooked them. Every breath you took, every sunrise, every meal, every relationship, it was all a gift from me. But you were too focused on what you thought was missing, and you missed the beauty of the blessings right in front of you. Remember, every good and perfect gift is from above. Do you remember the Israelites in the wilderness? I provided them manna from heaven, enough for each day. But they grumbled. They wanted more. You too often grumbled, thinking that happiness was somewhere just out of reach, when all along, I was providing for you daily. You had enough, child. You always had enough. Gratitude opens the door to more blessings. When you focus on what you lack, you miss the abundance of what you already possess. If you had lived with a heart of gratitude, you would have found peace and contentment in every season of your life, no matter how challenging. Remember this: the more you give thanks for what you have, the more I bless you with what you need. Take a moment right now to like this video and share it with someone who needs to be reminded to count their blessings. Let's spread the message of gratitude today. This lesson, child, was perhaps the most difficult for you to see while you were alive. So much of your life was spent seeking approval from others. You looked to the world to tell you your worth through likes, followers, promotions, and praise. But child, none of that truly mattered. You forgot the most important truth. I made you in my image. You were wonderfully and fearfully made. You didn't need to prove your worth to anyone, because you were already priceless in my eyes. But you allowed the opinions of others to define your identity, and in doing so, you lost sight of who I created you to be. Do you remember Saul, the first king of Israel? He sought the approval of the people, not mine, and in the end, it led to his downfall. You too, child, often allowed the world to dictate your actions. You worried about how others saw you, how they judged you, but you never needed to. My approval was the only approval you ever needed. I am proud of you, child, not because of what the world sees, but because of who you are in me. I look at your heart, not your accomplishments. The world looks at the outside, but I see the true you, the one I formed with my own hands. If only you had focused on pleasing me, your life would have been filled with more joy, more peace, and more fulfillment. But it's not too late for others to learn from this. Your story can help them understand what truly matters. Another lesson you missed was the importance of forgiveness. I know you were hurt. I saw the pain inflicted on you by others, and I know how difficult it was for you to let go. You allowed that bitterness to take root in your heart, and it held you back from the freedom I wanted for you. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Luke 6:37. Those words weren't just for others. They were for you. Every time you chose to hold on to a grudge, it was like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. The truth is, child, forgiveness was never for them. It was for you. Think of my son, Jesus, on the cross. Even in his final moments, after being betrayed, mocked, and crucified, he looked at those who hurt him and said, "Father, forgive them." That same grace was available to you, child, but you struggled to give it. If you had chosen forgiveness, your heart would have been lighter, your relationships restored, and your soul free. Holding on to that bitterness kept you in chains. But I wanted to release you from that burden. Forgive, as I have forgiven you. These lessons were always available to you, but now it's time for others to learn from your story. Fear kept you from stepping out in faith. You focused on what you lacked instead of what you had. You sought the approval of others when you only needed mine, and you held on to bitterness when I called you to forgive. But it's not too late for others to hear this truth. Share these lessons with the world. Let your story guide others toward a life of faith, gratitude, self-worth.